talking about anger, like about like venting and suppressing it, and it sounds like and we were kind of like that. It's like where's the happy medium? Because we read like suppressing it is just as bad. I think it could be. Do you feel like you were suppressing your anger in these moments, or do you feel like you were really just letting it go? Because I feel like for me, like oftentimes I realized I probably shouldn't say something, but then I end up just holding it. I have a lot of resentment.
So I've gotten good at talking about things that bother me with people I trust. And so I will not just let it fester inside, because I think an important part of letting that energy flow through us is articulating it. And so I articulated to a lot of people who were done hearing about it yesterday. But I've got people that I trust and respect, and we work through issues together. So I think, for me anyway, it's important to discuss it and get it out there. And then it starts losing its velocity and strength once I do that.
I guess that my question is kind of twofold. The first question is, I wonder if you could just describe a couple of like the business ventures that you have going right now, because you talked about like juggling different things at different times and how you go about managing your day in that respect and how mindfulness can relate to that. And then I guess my other question is maybe how the vocabulary of Eastern philosophy and Eastern meditation resonated with you a little bit better.
Okay, so on the first one, I'm involved in the investment bank. I'm a partner in investment bank that we sell and recapitalize businesses. So businesses is growing and healthy. We do what's called a prospectus and sell the business to private equity firms or competitors. I also am very active in my healthcare technology business, so I lead our strategic direction and capital raising and talk to our CEO every day about issues that he's dealing with. I started a not-for-profit called Rise Up Ventures, which teaches entrepreneurship in prison. And the idea there is that our prison system is completely screwed up. 98% of people that go to prison will wind up coming out of prison. And out of that 98% of people that come out of prison, 75% of them will recidivate. They'll commit additional crimes. So almost all of the crimes being committed are by people in jail, but there's been no innovation in providing skills, resources, or help to people coming out of jail, so that let's lock them up and forget about them doesn't work when most of them come out and commit more crimes. Because of sort of my background and experiences, I've been interested in the criminal justice system, and I'm very interested in entrepreneurship. So an element of that also is emotional intelligence. So we have sessions on teaching them better decision making and being aware of thoughts and emotions. And do you know Muse? You know the headset Muse? There's this headset Muse that a friend of mine and I play around with that tracks your brain activity while you meditate. We're actually bringing that into the prison. We started teaching them meditation to show them about that. Another thing I do is I speak about my book 3-4 times a month, and I'm an investor in some other stuff. So how do I keep track of it all? Sometimes not well. You know, sometimes I'm not really sure what I'm doing on a given day. Like I'll have a major project or two that I need to get done, and then I'm subservient to my email. I get stuck in that, which is not a good habit of somebody telling me what my priority ought to be and getting dragged into a project. In terms of your second question, when I started learning about Eastern philosophy, that it wasn't a deity, it wasn't a god, it was ourselves. I'm very interested in myself. I thought I could get interested in that. And so when I started learning about how pain is real and suffering is optional, and the I in my head is never quite satisfied, never content, always has a problem it needs to solve and fix, that really started resonating with me. It's like, wow, other people know about the voice in their head? I need to learn some more about that. How do we get that to shut off? So it just started intuitively making sense to me. And the more I started practicing meditation and seeing significant progress in my life, I just got deeper and deeper interested in it.
I know you were saying that you didn't really begin to practice mindfulness until recently, in recent years. How would you introduce someone to the practice of mindfulness who's like at a later stage in their life and doesn't really know anything about it?
I think there's a lot of great books that take a very soft approach to it, like 10% Happier, and Sharon Salzberg's books. Real Happiness is a book I've given to a lot of people. Untethered Soul is one of my favorite books. And there's a lot of great books out there that talk about the benefits of it in a very practical way. There's also a lot of apps now that have guided meditations that are 5 minutes long, 3 minutes long, 7, Headspace and Calm, and many others, where people that don't want to read or don't want to listen to anybody else, you could just put your headphones on, listen for 5 minutes, and do that for a couple weeks, and I think start seeing the benefits. So I used to, once I got into it and I saw the benefits, I was like the guy arm wrestling my friends to start doing it and choking them if they didn't do it. And I was the annoying person. I realized I had to like back off. I was like proselytizing a little too much. So now I'm sort of the resource. People know I'm interested in it. Scott helped me develop a program at our daughter's elementary school, which has been amazing. And my initial approach to everything is like, all right, we're gonna do this, we're gonna get all the teachers trained, we're gonna get the entire school trained. Fortunately, Scott has a lot more experience and wisdom than I do. He's like, slow down. Let's get some other people that are interested in it like you. You start teaching the classrooms, and we got a pilot approved, and slowly building some momentum. And I think that's the only way to do it. You have to do it slowly, and can't make anybody do anything they don't want to, so I would start with one of the apps and let them experience it.
I thought it was really interesting when you're talking about just applying logic and reasoning to your internal narrative, because growing up I would always think that logic and reasoning were like sort of counter to happiness, and being like reasoning and logical was cold as opposed to warm and happy, and like what I associated with happiness. But looking at things for what they are gives you a sense of gratitude as opposed to just focusing on the happiness, which, like Professor Scott was saying, is sort of just another spiral, but just like another spiral that can turn into a negative sort of runaway train if you let it be. So seeing things for what they are instead of just focusing on one part of the narrative and letting the narrative control everything is, I think, really crucial, and I appreciate that insight.
Yes, seeing things for what they are is a challenge, right? We all have our own lens through which we perceive reality. So reality is not really what any of us experience. We see our experience and perception of reality. And it's hard to sometimes differentiate, especially when you're in the throes of it. For me, when I'm in the throes of something not going my way. And it's usually a desire or want not being satisfied, or some outcome I've already attached to that I am disturbed that is not going to occur because I shouldn't have attached to that outcome, but I have, and so now I have to get it. And it clouds my thinking, and I need to take some time and sit with it. And it's not fun, it's not enjoyable sometimes, as I think as Scott was pointing out, but that's the process. And through that process, I gain more clarity, and ultimately, sometimes in minutes, sometimes in hours, sometimes in days or weeks, I start getting closer to reality from my perception of reality, which oftentimes are not nearly the same.
So based off your background, do you ever, or have you ever compared your thoughts or your inner narrative to what you hear from other people, and maybe think that yours is insurmountable or too burdensome for meditation to really help with? And if you do get to that point, what do you remind yourself at that time, or tell yourself to sort of continue with the practice?
So I try not to compare my thoughts to others, because I think I might scare them. They heard what really went on in this factory. What I've learned is that thoughts are thoughts. Thoughts are not real. They're objects of our consciousness that have no power over me unless I give them power. And as poetic as that might sound, and sometimes it's really easy to understand, sometimes it's more difficult, it's the truth. So my thoughts are not real. They're just manifestations of my subconscious creating ideas. And I could decide whether I want to feed them and make them really big thoughts. And those really big thoughts turn into resentments. And those resentments need a lot of energy. And I start talking to people about it, and then they become really big problems. And then it just spirals from there. So I don't think about it in terms of my thoughts compared to other people's thoughts. Are they worse? Are they better? I just know that my mind is a blank space. It's the sky, and my thoughts are clouds going across my sky. And I can pay a lot of attention to a cloud and make it a dark cloud, and it starts raining all over my landscape, and my day stinks and my week stinks, or I could just recognize it for what it is. It's just a cloud that's going to float by. It might stay there longer than I want it to, but it's going to go away. And that's one thing I've learned, is that everything is fleeting. Our thoughts are fleeting, emotions are fleeting, sensations are fleeting. And when I'm in it, though, that's hard. For me right now, I'm feeling better today. It's easy to say. Yesterday, I tell myself stuff I know because I read on this every day. I'm always reading about this because it's been the most game-changing thing that's happened in my life, this different kind of philosophy. But yesterday, I wasn't feeling it. I was like, I know that this is temporary. I know that this is fleeting. I'd like it to go away now. Go away. And go away. So I do different types of meditation techniques. I was doing every one yesterday. Like, this one didn't work. That one didn't work. Got these crazy glasses I haven't used for a while. I put the glasses on. They didn't do anything. But I felt better today. And so sometimes it takes longer to process, depending on what it's really hitting on internally. It's usually some deep-rooted fear or insecurity or resentment, and it's got to make its way through my system.
How do you balance that non-reactivity with, I guess, those times where you really need to have an edge, really need not be passive?
So that's a good question, and what I've realized is that there's a really fine line between acting in a way that is consistent with a legitimate business objective or personal objective, and acting in a way that's really just to advance my own selfish motives. Sometimes I don't know where that line is, but I tend to start sensing I'm crossing the line when it becomes a complete obsession to get what I want. And when I start thinking about that thing in the shower, driving my kids to school, talking to other people on the phone, I'm thinking about it, I'm plotting, I'm playing chess against somebody who's not playing chess against me, but I'm playing. I'm gonna do this, they're gonna do that, I'm gonna do this, they're gonna do that, I'm gonna do this, checkmate. And that starts going through my mind, how this is gonna play out. Then I start realizing I'm crossing the line, dial back, and I always have to keep in mind those spiritual principles, which I described, which are important to me. Am I acting in accordance with those spiritual principles? Am I helping someone, or am I at least not intentionally hurting someone? So part of this evolution for me is doing things like my entrepreneurship program in prison, realizing that life is not really about just satisfying all of Steve's desires and wants. It's about giving more than I take, leaving this world a better place than I found it, which I really believe, which is often counterintuitive. Again, that sounds great. It's counterintuitive at times during my day when I'm trying to do deals and make money and do this, do that. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to prison later. Oh, I don't have time to go to prison today. Right? It's like, I've got to make myself do things that I know are the right things to do, and then over time, it becomes easier to spot when I start crossing that line. But that's probably one of my biggest struggles, is I'm involved in various businesses, and people are negotiating deals. Everybody has their own agenda. So I just be like, hey, you know what? You do that, you take this, you take that, oh, you want more money, that's okay. That wouldn't be a very good business person. But I could temper that with, am I being kind? Am I being honest? Am I manipulating anybody? Am I deceiving anybody? Am I being humble? Is it all about me? And so I have to constantly try to use that formula to make sure I don't start going off the deep end.
Well, I'm just curious, with someone like yourself who has such a busy day, and for a lot of us that are gonna, start off at a big firm or something and work these crazy hours, do you take a more scheduled approach to your meditation, like every day, X amount of minutes, or do you have a more reactive approach? Today was a rough day, I need to meditate for an hour. Yesterday was an okay day, I'm only gonna meditate for 5 minutes.
So it's a funny question. I remember Scott once asking me, do I use the Insight timer? And I'm like, why would I use that? I'm so defiant. I don't want somebody like a clock telling me I'm done, or I should. So the answer is I do between 15 minutes and 25 minutes every single day. I refuse to use a timer because I don't like being told what to do. Which is childish, but it is what it is. And I usually do it towards the end of the day around 7 o'clock. But I start my morning with like a 2-minute meditation, and I try to incorporate a level of mindfulness throughout my entire day. So ultimately, my understanding, and Scott would know better than me, is that when you talk to truly enlightened Buddhist monks that have been doing this for their entire lives, meditation is about getting into that meditative state all the time. It's that presence, that awareness, that you know the thoughts and emotions and you see them in real time and you're not being reactive. And so I'm not saying I'm meditating all day. I'm trying to be mindful all day, and then my formal practice is usually towards the end of the day.
And one more question, and then we'll talk about the handout, which connects up very nicely with what you've been speaking to in terms of an assignment for this week. But one more question. So if you've been holding back and there's a question you'd like to ask it. Don't wait for somebody else to ask this question. Yes.
I know you spoke to this previously, but I guess how in like a meta sense, like 'cause I know you do a lot of things, has mindfulness helped you like with your, maybe like with your family and friends and in your business? Like is there like a noticeable difference that you feel, I guess?
Yeah, it's enabled me to be a lot more present with my kids and playing with them and not, seeing how I'm playing with them, doing something on my phone. And the same thing in business meetings. So there's something special when you're around somebody that's really present, and I don't claim to have achieved that yet, but I have occasion to be around some people like that. Scott is one of the people that I put on that list. I mean, when somebody sits down with you and they're just looking in your eyes, and you just feel their presence, and that they're paying attention to you, there's a reason why they call it present. It's a gift, right? That's powerful. And you feel like you're the only person in the room, and your ability to connect with that person escalates, accelerates. And so in business, it's really been very effective for me because I actually pay attention. Like I was big on, I still struggle with doing 18 different things at once. I want to email, talk on the phone, and write something, and it's like, slow down. Do one thing at a time and do that one thing really, really well. When I'm with someone, I try to resist the temptation to pick up my phone. I know we all have it. It's like, my texts are terribly important, right? They don't really matter. No, it's not life and death. I'm not an ER surgeon. It can wait. But there's that pull, there's that draw. And the more present I am with people, with my family, with friends, in work, I've noticed a huge difference in terms of my relationship with people, my level of connectivity, focus, concentration. It's all improved.
Nice questions, good questions, telling questions. You've spoken about when you want something to go a certain way, and you've also spoken about cultivating gratitude. Two things. First, you also ran through a little list. Would you mind saying the things that you, in the morning, you said, I think about, and you sort of went through this list, that sounds like it's something that you, would you mind?
Kindness. So
Kindness?
I do. I remember everything with acronyms. Kindness, love, compassion, gratitude, honesty, humility.
Kindness,
Love,
compassion, gratitude,
honesty,
humility. Okay, good, thank you. I'll put that on the website as well. So, thank you very much. So, we'll be here for a few moments if you have any questions for Steve on the way out.